Welcome to our last special episode together with Nord Security. We will take you on a journey through cybersecurity from the beginning to the end. We have talked about the importance of great password, VPN technology and file encryption. So,
this time we will have a conversation about modern network design. How can we transform from a traditional network design to a secure and modern one? What is the first step? What is SASE? Threat block smart remote access.
Well, soon we know. You're listening to IT Säkerhetspodden Special. I am Mattias Jadesköld, and the person who sits next to me is, of course, Erik Zalitis. This episode is called Never Stop Improving Your Cyber Defense. And with us in this episode is Nord Security's Carlos Salas. Welcome, Carlos.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Great. So can you tell me a bit about your role?
Sure. I'm an engineering manager at NordLayer. I'm also part of the research and development team.
Okay, nice. But do you have technical background? So you've been working with VPN?
Yeah, I have been working for the past, 13 years in everything like cybersecurity related and also database administration, sysadmin, and software development. So yeah, I have some background in all security related stuff. So I ended up being here.
Yeah. So this episode is about never stop improving your cyber defense, and we will talk a bit about network for a while. But first, before we talk about modern network designs, I would like to talk the traditional way of designing networks. So what I experience is that many organizations are still using traditional network designs like one central firewall, LAN, and maybe some one or two DMZ subnets. Do you agree with this design?
Yes, especially with older companies that started to get into like the network game in early stages.
Yeah.
The thing is that those network architectures were like the to-go solutions back in the day. And they were also quite expensive. So upgrading everything or changing it to the most new technologies every year, it was probably out of question most of the time. Yeah. So as more time passes, the harder it is to get upgraded. So they just start building on top of them.
Yeah. What are the challenges with a network like this?
Well, first of all, normally they have like a single local area network, single LAN.
Yeah.
Or a small collection of LANs on a on-premise location, and they are managed by a centralized collection of routers and switches. And most probably, they only have a single entry-exit point with a firewall, centralized firewall there too. So the main challenge they will have is for example, if the firewall fails, the full network is off the grids. They go offline completely.
Yeah. And from an attacker point of view, if an attacker looks at a network design like this, what do you think they think about that?
Well, the thing about this kind of architecture is that they have a lot of attack vectors.
Yeah.
So, for example, I think the main three ones is for example, a classic man-in-the-middle attack, where you position yourself as an attacker between the firewall and the rest of the internet. So every single packet of information that goes back and forth from the whole organization to the outside, it can be tracked and it can be captured. And the second one, it's an inside attack. Once an attacker gets inside of your network, it's assumed that they are supposed to be there. And therefore, you skip a lot of security measures that most networks will have.
Yeah.
And finally, I think that the third most common one is that if one or a few devices will get breached, then the whole network will be exposed because of the same reason as before. The whole network is a big LAN, so everything is interconnected. So once you get into a computer, you get everything.
Yeah, me and Erik had been working on this podcast for 3 years, and we have discussed zero trust architecture for years. But why does it still look like this in many organizations that they are using traditional networks?
Well, okay, imagine this the following scenario: you are a middle to big site company in 1993.
Yeah.
And you wanted to go online, you wanted to expand to other locations, to other offices that you have. So first of all, you will need to buy an enterprise tiered router.
Yeah.
And that will set you back like $20,000. And it's like around 40,000 on today's standards. And on top of that firewall, it's another 20K. And on top of that, a group of sysadmins that will manage this. So it was a huge investment. So if next year there's a new technology, there's a new way of managing your internet and your network, token bus was not a thing anymore, then it will be extremely expensive to change everything that you have. So what will you do is to put something on top of that and on top, and you start patching and moving and creating new stuff for yourself. So at some point, it's impossible for you to move without destroying everything and create it from zero. And from the manager perspective, it's a very big cost that most of the time they don't see the gain on top.
Yeah. And I guess it's very hard for like a network engineer or a specialist to explain why a network needs to modernize for a CEO or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you go and explain because we need to change it because we are wrong, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
And we need to change it because there's something new.
Yeah.
And then they will be like, there are some new stuff every day. We can't change every day the architecture, so let's keep it like that. So it's very hard to explain that we need to improve, that we need to evolve.
Yeah, right. So, okay, when it comes to new designs, we're going to go through some technologies. We start with Zero Trust. What is that?
Well, Zero Trust, it's a framework more than a technology, based on the principle of trust none and verify everyone. Well, in other words, it's like trust no one.
Yeah.
It basically means that every single access attempt could potentially be a malicious agent, an attacker, a hacker. And so we need to verify their access to a specific segment of the network rather than to the whole network as in traditional solutions.
Yeah.
So for that, we need to explore some of the key concepts of Zero Trust. For example, we can start with identity and access management.
Yeah.
Which I think is the key principle of Zero Trust. It describes how a user will be identified, and it could be anything from connecting an Active Directory that you already have, having a third-party single sign-on solution. You could even use Google for this. And once the system knows who the user is, on top of that, you can add secondary ways of validating that identity. For example, multi-factor authentications, biometric, public and private key pairs, among a lot of other ways of connecting. So once you identify yourself and prove that you are you, then you have what is called a network segmentation, in which you have a big LAN, for example, where you have development servers and QA servers and finance servers and HR servers and so on. So you as a developer, you don't need to go into HR servers.
Yeah.
So you get cut of that single piece of the network. Or you as an HR employee, you don't have the need to go into QA or into research and development segments of the network, so you don't get there. So even if an attacker gets to impersonate you, they don't have the whole access to the network. So they minimize a lot the attack vectors there. Then on top of that, you have network access control, where you can work in tandem with network segmentations to have identity management there. So you can create policies for users to connect, where they are going to connect, when, how, and so on. So with bigger security risks that you could have, like very sensitive information, you can have tier segments on who is going to access that, only managers or only developers or only QAs and so on, until the most basic ones.
And I think that in access control, you can, for example, set the policy that the computer needs to have an updated antivirus software, for example, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Even, for example, having some specific IP, like you need to be connected from this specific country at this specific time. If not, you're not going to be able to connect.
Yeah.
Like you can go as far as configuring this way.
Yeah. And the last key components is network security. How does that work?
Yeah, network security practically encompasses everything, like between when you are identified and when you go and access anything inside of the network.
Yeah.
So it encompasses firewall rules, it encompasses routing inside of the network, and access to resources that can only be given by need basis. So in this case, everything is denied by default, and you are only going to give, like, with drop by drop, what do you need to access and to whom.
Okay, yeah. But I read on your website that the pandemic has accelerated this move to zero trust. That's kind of interesting because I thought it would be more complicated if people are working from home, from different devices and so on. But can you please explain how the pandemic accelerated this move? Well,
it was actually more of they need to, because, for example, most companies have never even thought about letting their employees work anywhere.
Yeah.
That is not protected from either like their enterprise firewall or the physical boundaries of like on-premise architecture infrastructure. But then when the pandemic hits and the government starts saying, like, you know what, no one goes out, then it was either letting workers to keep working from home or not letting them work at all. So, I mean, I think the answer was clear for them at that moment. So, okay, we need to do it, and we need to do it fast. So they start looking for solutions that you could implement as painless as possible and as fast as possible. So that's the main reason they start accelerating this whole thing.
Okay, so if you're working as an IT administrator and you're interested in this, it sounds very complicated. But what's the first step to do here?
Well, the first steps, like in any other IT project, will be assess your situation. Like, how many workers do you have? How many networks? How your network architecture is built? What kind of policies would you like to enforce? Like, who is going to be able to access what? How users are going to connect? How segmented the network has to be? And based on that, you will need to look for a solution that fits your personal situation. For example, you can have a cloud-based service like NordLayer, or some companies that are like very, very, very traditional. They have this kind of cloud is wrong. Like, I have seen a few of those companies. Like, we can't let anything to be on our cloud. They have self-hosted VPNs, and those ones, I will say they are quite complicated.
Yeah.
But introducing some cloud-based VPN architecture infrastructure is not as complicated as it sounds. Sometimes even it's like a plug-and-play style of solution. So it's quite nice and quite easy to implement.
Okay. Another new framework or buzzword is SASE, Secure Access Service Edge solution. What is that?
Yeah, it's very similar to Zero Trust in the sense that it's not a technology, it's more like a framework or architecture, network architecture, that brings a huge variety of security technologies. For example, secure web gateway, Zero Trust even is inside of SASE, and firewall capabilities, together like with a wide area network in order to securely connect users, systems, and endpoints to applications and service anywhere they might be. They could be in cloud, they could be in on-premises, on different offices around the world, and you are going to be connecting like if you were in the same LAN.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not about to choose between Zero Trust or SASE. SASE is Zero Trust is a part
integral part of.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an integral part of SASE.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have some guidelines how to learn more about SASE and so on?
Yes. For example, in our webpage, we have a full page dedicated to SASE. where you can learn more about it. And if you want to go more deeper into that, you can look for Gartner's definition of SASE and exactly what's going on behind the SASE movement.
Okay. SASE, is that something you're familiar with, Erik?
No, not entirely, I'm afraid.
Haven't reached Sweden yet.
Or something.
Yeah. Well, Carlos, NordLayer, how does that product work within these type of zero trust designs?
Well, NordLayer was built with these frameworks in mind.
Yeah.
It was born with this. So it bundles the functionality of multiple SASE capabilities into a single package. So it makes it a great tool for small and large companies and businesses to start their SASE journey. Because most of the time you go, like, for example, to Gartner, and they will give you like 20 pages of what SASE is, what you need to implement, and how it is. It's quite overwhelming if you go directly there.
Yeah.
So with NordLayer, it's practically you just go there, get your license, and start going on.
Okay.
You already have all these SASE capabilities inside of your NordLayer subscription.
Okay. So to understand this a bit more, I'll do some examples, scenarios. So, for example, I work on an organization that had NordLayer with zero trust. I'm a normal worker, so I arrive at in the morning and start my laptop. What is happening?
Well, first of all, even if you are already in the internal network, there will be network segmentation going on. So let's say, again, let's go as we are developers, and you need to deploy your code. You will first need to prove that you are actually you by using multi-factor authentications and even biometrics, like your fingerprint and so on. After that, you will be able to see the development servers. If not, you can't see them and you can't reach them. You might only be able to reach the internet outside, and that's it. Not anything that is inside of the network, even if you have the server in front. So as we mentioned before, it's like trust no one.
Yeah, I understand. But how does it work? Do I have some sort of NordLayer client where I click connect and use my...
Yeah, exactly. You install any type of, for example, if you have Windows, you have Mac OS, if you have Android or an iPad or something like that, you just click login, connect, and that's it. You are already inside of that segment of the network that you need to be.
Yeah. And if it's a large company, we have different offices and so on, and I move to different offices. I just use the same connect, for example.
Exactly. You just go to connect to developer segment, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you are here, if you are in Japan, Mexico, or whatever.
Yeah.
You will be able to connect wherever you are, like if you were inside of the local network.
Okay. I'll take some other scenario. Okay, let's say I work on a hybrid office, sometimes from home and sometimes from office. Okay, I work from the home one day. How does it work? What do I do?
It's practically the same. It's actually very plug and play. You just turn on your computer, click connect, and that's it. You are already inside of your local office network from home. You could go on vacation and you can connect from there. And for your local network, will be completely transparent. Will be completely agnostic of who you are from where you are, because they already know who you are, from which device you are connecting, and that you already passed the full authentication.
Okay, so if I'm a staff at the HR department, you will the IT staff have created a profile for me that only has access to the HR systems, for example.
Exactly.
And would that decrease the network speed in some way? It needs to first communicate with NordLayer's cloud and then back to the HR servers. How does the traffic work?
No, the traffic it's mainly. At first, you will need to connect. You will need to reach servers, but we have multiple locations of servers. So, for example, you will connect to the one that is nearest you, so the latency will be less. So, in this case, the loss of speed will be greatly minimized. And we also have some newer technologies. In this case, this protocol called NordLinks, It's WireGuard based. In this case, it's quite fast, and it's almost imperceptible when you are connected by this new NordLynx protocol.
Yeah, the NordLynx, the type of cat we have in the forest in Sweden. Okay, so another scenario before we go on. Okay, I forgot my office computer for one day, and I'm allowed to use my personal iPad. How can I work with that?
Well, once you install the application and you log in and you pass the whole authentication, this could be working as, for example, bring your own device type of companies, where they let you bring your personal computers, personal laptops, and mobiles, for example, like an iPad. And that's it. That practically you are going to be able to connect securely without any security risks based on that. And also, there's some like specific things that we give to our clients. For example, you could tick a simple thing in the control panel, centralized control panel, and you are not going to be able to connect even if you pass authentications if your iPad is root or is jailbroken. So in this case, we ensure that you are not installing something like, for example, network sniffer, or there is something there that shouldn't be there. And that's one of the main things that we have. So you can just install your Node Layer app, and that's it. You can go.
Okay. I understand. Okay, so now I will be the network guy, network admin perspective. Okay, the company has agreed to go ahead with this zero trust design, Node Layer. Is there an infrastructure I need to set up, like a new Node Layer firewall or something like that, or?
Not at all. It's practically just you get your new subscription. You get your new private gateway if you need a private gateway, or you can only use your our shared gateways, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just invite all your employees to get this new app, and that's it.
Okay. So if I want a private gateway, that's something I install in my own data center, for example.
No, a private gateway, you just go into control panel, select get a new private gateway, and that's it. Okay. You already have a private gateway that will appear on the application. For example, if you have a private gateway called HR tools, which is the segment of the network that only HR will be able to access, then when an HR person logs into their app, they will see HR segment there.
Okay.
They click on it, and they are already there. You don't need to install anything on your side in this case.
Okay, but there are also some features, because I named this Never Stop Improving. So, but there's a lot of things that I can configure, like smart remote access. What's that?
Yeah, smart remote access. Practically, it's a way for you to interconnect different devices without the need of doing any, like, for example, firewall configuration on your side. In this case, for example, let's say that my laptop is going to be called Carlos laptop. And you configure this name on the Node Layer app. And then we have a server that is called QA server. And they also, in that server, we also have the Node Layer app with the QA server name. So then you can access those local resources from the laptop to the QA server by this name, QA server, instead of going and having to configure IP addresses or configuring your own DNS server. You can go directly from Carlos laptop to QA server, and that's...
I'm just curious. For example, if I have a large office, 100 employees, and a normal LAN, all the computers are connected to each other and can reach each other. But if I'm forced to like start a Node Layer app, is that means that they're isolated from each other? So I'm not able to communicate with my neighbor's computer?
It will be like that only if, for example, you don't have smart remote access. With smart remote access, you can communicate to everyone by the device name instead of like the device IPs or the device local network addresses.
Yeah.
So that what way also, like, it's what we were talking about. If one of the devices gets breached, nothing happens because they are not going to be able to start interfering with other devices like in normal local networks.
So if I understand correctly, then if I want that scenario, smart remote access should be disabled then?
If you want that everyone is completely separated from each other, you could enable all this or disable by, for example, you have a lot of different private gateways, and you can enable or disable depending on the private gateway.
Okay.
So you can say developers can reach each other, but not HR, but design they have to, and so on and so on.
Yeah, okay. Another technology, threat block. What's that?
Yeah, threat block is an automated checker for malicious web pages that practically serves as a barrier between malware-ridden sites and user's device. It's based on a database that is always evolving to make sure that we cover all bases. So in this case, someone that is not very tech savvy will go and start writing instead of google.com, and probably someone had some malware there.
Yeah.
We will completely block that, and they're not going to be able to reach any kind of malware-ridden web pages.
Okay, so that's some to block website, but you're also able to put to whitelist websites if they're blocked and so on.
It should be possible if, for example, you need creating a ticket, and you know what? I think this shouldn't be blacklisted in this case.
Yeah.
So we checked it personally, and you know what? Now we checked, and actually I got infected. So we are not going to to put it in because if we let everyone just start removing everything from that block, then we could have some attackers actually trying to unblock their web pages. So as we were saying, trust no one. We need to check by ourselves too.
Yeah, all right. And third one, biometric authentication. How does that work in this scenario?
Yeah, practically in this scenario, as we were discussing before, you can use the biometric authentication functionalities on your device to log in. For example, me that I'm using a Mac right now, I can use my fingerprint to log into a Nord layer. And if you have an iPhone or an Android, anything that is system biometric authentication could be used to prove this extra layer of security.
Like Face ID.
For example, if you have an iPhone, you can use Face ID.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you can keep adding layers and layers. For example, two-factor authentications and third-party authentications with single sign-on and so on.
Okay, another thing, jailbroken device detection. I think you mentioned it before, but can you please clarify? Yeah,
it's practically if any user is trying to log in from any jailbroken device, could be Android or iOS. You never know what there could be running in the background.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as a pirated copy of some app, which in itself could be a security risk because you never know who delivered that to the internet and maybe they put something else there. Or something as malicious as a network sniffer.
Yeah, right.
Or a remote access tool or whatever. So to minimize this risk, you can enable jailbroken device detection in order to block any connections that come from this kind of device.
Yeah, okay. Understand. And still I'm the network guy here. How do I monitor this? What can I do from a control panel, for example?
Well, from the control panel, you can request to have this feature called activity log, in which you can see from where each device was connecting, for how long, and the device type is being used to connect, and so on. So this you can be used for auditing and compliance purposes, and you can export it also as a CSV file to have it with other, to have interaction with other systems that you might have related to security or compliance. And besides that, from control panel, you can add and remove users, create new teams in order to segment networks by functions. For example, you create the development team and the design team, and each of those teams have their own private gateway. And this private gateway comes bundled with their own private IP. So, for example, you could whitelist this private IP from your private gateway into your AVS accounts or Azure accounts. So you could actually block everything, any type of access to your AVS or Azure, unless it comes from this specific private IP that you own because you have this private gateway.
Okay.
So
if I subscribe on a node layer, are there any limits of private gateways? Because if I understand correctly, if you have a large organization, maybe you have a lot of private gateways.
You can keep creating more private gateways. Of course, this will jump into enterprise type of licensing subscription. And then, you can reach any of our sales department team, and they will be happy to you know what, we can make the price because of this or that,
right.
or we can add or remove, and you can start customizing your needs. If you need a site-to-site connection, we can do also that. If you need smart remote access on and off on very specific things. And I mean, overall, it's a very nifty tool to have this centralized control panel. And you can have a more control and overview of your software-defined network.
Okay, that was all of my questions. Is there anything you would like to add there, Carlos? Maybe I missed something.
No, I think we went over why we need these kind of tools and how we can help to implement them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think we touched all the bases.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so for listeners out there who's curious about this technique, I think we'll provide a link for them to try out Node Layer. I think, hopefully. So thank you so much, Carlos Salas. Nice to have you here with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.